phase will go in particular against the Gwen. And given that Kurt does have Ignite, at least right before we came off of Champ Select, he was hovering that Ignite. I'd imagine that in a 1v1, the Ignite top laner should, in most cases, win.
But we'll see. You know, anything's possible in the PCS, like I'd say in the LPL. I want to pull out that it was against the Renekton, where Fion pulled it up against Rich. And then the second game around against the Gwen, it got absolutely obliterated. As we know, Gwen in a 1v1 setting does pretty well. So I'm curious to see how it goes this time, because for Frank Esports, they got such powerful picks in this draft. Zeri left open. The Viego follows suit. The Gwen as well. We get a strong lane here for mid with the Syndra locked in. It seems like really good news, but for MFT, momentum comes off the back of beating Sem9 earlier in the day, and their match against Sem9 was pretty clean. It was a carry from 665 on his Lee Sin, and he's got another jungler that can influence with early game agency. So for MFT, signs of life there as well, and definitely a fitting game to finish the PCS Spring Night. Nights are only 5 matches, but they've been a wild ride to say the least.
It's certainly been a bit of a roller coaster of a ride today. Starting out with you know, you start out slow, of course, on the roller coaster, and that's what those pauses were. And since then, it's been light speed ahead.
Well, with a 20-minute game, of course it is. Of course it is. I'm sitting here thinking, you know, you and I, what did we say before we went into this game? We thought, it's going a bit too fast. And the night's going really quickly. And of course, as we say that,
we got to catch up on our schedule, Hysterics.
No.
We're too far ahead.
No, I don't want to catch up on the schedule's been beautiful. We had a huge pause, like a tech pause at the start. Only 10 minutes. I'm overselling it. As there we go. It's just anticipation to get onto Summer's Rift. Frank Esports versus Meta Falcon team. The last game of the PCS night here in the spring split. And both these teams, it's a cop-out to say they both need the wins, but realistically, 6th and 7th respectively, Meta Falcon team can move to 4 and get closer towards the rest of that top 5, cement themselves in the top 6, while Frank Esports can tie themselves up with MFT. A very big matchup to round it out, and we have a Mordekaiser. You're talking about the Ignite in lane. Both top laners have Ignite and TP. There is no flash to speak of.
And that is very interesting, because while we see Ignite on Gwen, a lot of that's because of the fact that she has mobility. Mordekaiser lacking a little bit of that. So Atako has to play really, really perfectly, or just get so far snowballed that it doesn't matter that he doesn't have flash. So that will certainly be a lane to watch, but at the same time, given how MFT have drafted pretty much exclusively to say, hey, we're going to dive you bot lane over and over again, you know, maybe we don't see a ton of focus go towards this top side.
Yeah, that diving comp talked about, MFT running Alistar. We've got one once again on the rise and 665 on the volley bear. So as he starts with his top side cleared pathing towards bottom, it gives an opportunity for us to look towards Whale and Epoch and see what they can set up here with the Alistar. I want to come back to Mordekaiser and Gwen super quickly. Just noting the fact that, you know, I've seen this matchup now before, and the Mordekaiser doesn't mind when you run into him. It's when you try and disengage that he presses E and brings you back in for a secondary trade. And when Gwen's E is down, a nice little timing window for Taco to try and proc passive. So I'll be interested just to watch the micro interactions in that lane while the macro comes down to what happens in the bottom side. Both junglers are there, Nightstar, and I believe that Frank Esports no Raptors awarded, but no vision was translated over to MFT.
Yeah, all eyes will be on this bottom lane, especially once we get level 6 on Volibear and or Rise, or it should be the other way around, I should say. But
that's fair.
It's going to be more than likely large numbers advantages. So nice to see that Pretender has indeed kind of played out what he needs to do in this mid lane matchup. That's get early priority, play around with his jungle, and try and create an early numbers advantage before that level 6 happens, and just try and make sure Hollow's able to stay ahead of this Volibear.
Epoch missing
the
the
3v3
pulverize there. Yeah, it actually turning into a 3v4.
Oh, they're collapsing on
4v4
Pretender.
even. On to Pretender, scatter the weeks there, but 665 going to get Sky Splitter.
Chain
The
stun.
burst damage huge. He's over the wall, stunned up. It won't matter. One follows in. First blood while they 1v2 with Hollow.
Can Hollow
Epoch
get
getting in
one?
the middle of it as well, but
That's big.
that's a nice little setup. And this is great for Frank
Oh,
Esports.
it's
As they got the
looking
Ignite
good.
onto Epoch. He's ticking down, and Hollow's still dealing with one. Following up. That's kills for the Viego. Double, and now you're in trouble.
Oh, baby. For Frank Esports, they get themselves a double kill in that situation. It looks so dicey, right? Because all of a sudden, Pretender, well, it looked, so it really was a roller coaster of a moment there, right? Because Frank Esports, they started the fight. They had the numbers advantage. All right, we'll get to see the replay. And it looked like, okay, Pretender's coming down. Now we have a 4v3 advantage because Wen's trailing behind. But then 665 scrolls upwards instead, turns onto Pretender, forcing out the flash from Pretender. They get the easy first blood. However, it costs them double flash to do so. And that means 665's put in a poor spot. Wen's put in a poor spot. And MFT's bot lane have to overcompensate. They end up overextending down towards that bottom side. They have to burn summoners. And all hell has broken loose.
2 kills, a bounty, a Viego snowballing a lead. That's all you need to say at this point. And for MFT, the game earlier on was 665 snowballing himself, and the fact that that play went so poorly kind of talks about how this dive is going to succeed in future. Because Nightstar, when you set up the composition and what they want to do, a lot of it depends on how this early game goes off, how they can build up momentum and tempo. And even though we're not at that 6 point yet for MFT, it just feels like Hollow's ability to counter gank and now add in extra layers of damage is that much more deadly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a key point. He is able to match that dive window, which it should be pretty easy to do so. You clearly know when they want to go ahead and attack your bottom lane in this instance. If he shows up at that time, it's going to be really easy pickings to just get a bunch of resets. And now they're setting up for a bot gank. I do like Eminem hugging the wall, of course.
Oh, hang on, okay. Ignites down. Taco
has
decided in the 1v1. They're in the death realm. Hitting him over. He missed! He missed the obliterate! Oh, Taco. No food
Pretender's
for you
here
tonight. And now Hollow's here. And in the brush, they knew 665 was there. Frank dumping on MFT.
Oh, man. I was not ready for this Frank Esports. Seems like they've really gone and workshopped a couple things in just a short time. Like, this feels so different to what I was expecting to see, where Frank Esports, they've really consistently been the ones to either, like, it's been exclusively Hollow finding those plays, or it's just been sit back, wait, hopefully our solo lanes don't get hard, and then we'll hopefully take a swing at you on that second or third dragon.
Man, that's so rough topside though. That hurts my soul. Taco, he pulled out the Death Realm.
He used so much for that.
And yeah, Kurt responded, to be fair, but killing him under turret, picking up Merc Treads now as well. It's versing the Leeching Leer. A good position this Gwen finds herself in is 665 trying to get around the map. Now his options extend to the top side, but a control ward that spots him out. And speaking of spotting out, I have to say, 665 this whole game night has been spotted out by Frank Esports, and they're really good vision coverage.
Yeah, I think it also helps that Frank Esports got to watch that previous game to just have a reminder of, hey, we have to keep track of this guy. Otherwise, he will just continue to attack and attack us in these lanes. And if we're ever lackadaisical in our vision setup, he will hard punish us. And now we're looking really to kind of flip the game here for MFT. If they don't win this, it is dire.
Well, 665 has the ulti to get stretch line in. Rebirth sets it up. Scatter the Weak, beautiful. As Kurt runs in with an needlework. The Gwen already scary. Stormbringer in the backline might not matter as Frank Esports had this fight under their wing. One jumps back on in. Lucky to survive as Taco now doing the same. Realm Warp onto Rebirth, but he's buying time, buying space, and Frank are going to send members right after him. Nice flash over the wall. Taco not long for this world, and Frank are going to pick up their 6th kill and make this game look ever so complete.
Man, where has this Frank Esports been?
True.
Oh, it is so nice to watch. Of course, MFT, when they took that fight, they understood that there's a bit of a timer on their own composition because of the fact that they are running champions like the Rise, like the Volibear, who are going to lack a lot of damage when it comes moving forward into the game. Even on this Mordekaiser, it doesn't scale well because he doesn't have flash. So while you are going to be able to take fights, that's only if they run towards you. It's so easy to kite out these team fights with the Syndra and with Azeri.
Wow, Rebirth with the prediction. Whale Flash and Rebirth dredge line. The exact spot. This is, you're right, where is this Frank Esports been? Rebirth had a pretty lousy showing, I will say. Comes into this game looking amazing on the Nautilus, and the rest of the team, you could say the same. Replay time as Whale's traps were a bit short.
Yeah, short, and
oh
the lockdown.
My God.
Oh my God.
Beautiful.
That was absurd. That was definitely the epitome of mad life.
Yeah.
Because he threw out the prediction even before Whale knew where he was going.
Yeah. He knew that Whale didn't know, so he actually knew. It's the biggest 5-head I've ever seen. Beautiful stuff from Rebirth. A real nice prediction. Kind of telling you how this game's going. Frank Esports in control. 3,000 gold. And look at Taco. No flash. We already talked about Kurt out with the needlework. And Realm Warp not up and available. Hollow now with his 4th kill. And this Mordekaiser pick, because of that dive that he insinuated, it's just going downhill.
Yeah, he started out that dive, and now this missing flash really punishing. They can dive, though.
Dawnbringer comes down, and of course, with the unleashed power, there's no turret aggro to follow suit. 665 finally getting to pop the ulti, but look top. There's a Herald here as well. The trade is going to be for first turret block.
Yeah, it's going to go into the hands of Kurt as well, being able to split that. So really, really nice there. We finally get to see Kurt in a power position. We'll see how well he responds from this spot, because we haven't seen him in a position of power yet. It's always been him down considerable fashion up in that top side, always having to make up for it by roaming around, and that usually just snowballs out of control. If you're roaming around, your team doesn't find those plays, you just continue to sack bold. So nice to see him doing well in this game, and now we get to see how Frank Esports transition a lead.
Because for Frank Esports, they've kind of been a predictable team. Like, what we've seen is it's always been a one-track mind of Eminem is going to do well in his lane, and he's going to be our hope. In this game, Pretender well enough within his lane. Hollow carrying is, kind of helping out and setting up the point as well. Hollow has been pretty decent too. But Kurt, someone as well who's now got control within his own lane state. So a new Frank Esports to watch. And when you talk about how they're going to transition their lead, well, right now, Frank Esports are 4,000 gold ahead after the turret play up in the top side. An extended top lane. Dragon that's given over as a trade that they may not care about. And Frank still positioning, hovering around mid lane turret at 13 minutes in the game, looking for extra plates to lead him towards those 2 items.
Yeah, Frank Esports dominating so far. And for MFT, really the only big play they've been able to find has just been that dive onto Pretender in that mid lane. So really, their fight windows are just going to be around, does 665 have his ultimate, and is there a dive available for them to try and take here? As when and 665 have both of their ultimates up and available, but
yep.
I mean, for the most part, like, it's hard to make a play around a Mordekaiser because he wants to pop that ultimate. And if you're popping your ultimate as Mordekaiser, it defeats the purpose of bringing in extra members.
And he gets solid out at this point with the Riftmaker response, and with Kurt being the big unit that he is. So I think further to your point, Taco in a really hard position. But you're talking about dive here for MFT when, you know, we've seen it once come through in this game. The volley bear, the rise, like, the setup hasn't been there. And that's because Frank Esports keep denying options. As they walk through, they set up Vision. They've been tracking 665 throughout the whole game. Remember, you and I were talking about Vision in the first 3-4 minutes. And 665 was walking over so many wards. They knew exactly where he's pathing. And he's been punished for it ever since.
Yeah, and now, I mean, for the side of Frank Esports, they have complete control over that top half of the map with their wards, which means that they are just free to take this Rift Herald. And it should also mean that Kurt knows that something's up here. They haven't seen him up top side. He has to be towards that bottom side. And they've brought a whole squad as well.
But what's it going to cost in the end? The question that keeps needing to be asked. He knows it's there. Kurt getting Chilling Smite down. He's going to go in immune in a second as Realm will come through. It's a flash in. Right in the circle. Everybody stands still. The needlework, though, buying time. Turning the turret off. Not going to get the damage down. Herald's going to come through. And now the mid lane turret is going to be the cost of the 1v3.
I mean, he plays it as well as he could once the dive actually happens, but
You're gonna lose too.
He puts himself in a poor spot. At least on the flip side, his team is able to get a whole lot for the cost of his life, so they do trade up in that situation. But for the side of MFT, at the very least, you do get a tower and you do get the kill, so it's admirable trade for the side of MFT is really the best way you can phrase it.
I like Nightstar, you're being kind. You know, you're really trying to give them something here. Because MFT have got nothing to hold on to, and, you know, while somewhat trading when you're behind is great, losing 2 turrets in the mid lane, opening up Vision, and denying more jungle camps, denying 665 further into this game. We've got an Ocean Dragon coming up, an Ocean Soul that will spawn in 3 Dragons' time if Frank Esports keep their control under their wing. So, still kind of worried about MFT because you already talked about the scaling elements coming through. I think for Zeri, for, you know, Kurt, Hollow, how they play out this game in these fights, if they get a reset, if they get that pick that their comp's so good at doing, it just feels like MFT have to run for the hills.
Yeah, thankfully for the side of MFT, Ocean's probably one of their best options to roll as far as not necessarily a Dragon Soul, but because of the fact that you were able to get Mountain Dragon, it's not the worst dragon to give up when it comes to just stats wise, right? It's really that Dragon Soul that you're concerned about when it comes to Ocean. So you're willing to give up this dragon, maybe even that next one. The next one's a little bit questionable, but at the very least, you're very comfortable with just conceding this one and just trying to farm up whatever gold you can find on the map.
Giving one his second item, you know, second item for Whale as well. So I like that you bring up timing here on the Dragons. 4 minutes 40 until the next. Baron coming up in 2 minutes 20, but for Frank Esports pushing these sidewave turrets, they're trying to match one. Who is going to pick up the second one here? No one's touching him for the time being. And when you're the team behind, coming back to your point, trading is still good when your goal is just exchanging hands, but not if you get caught out. Epoch has to burn the ulti At half HP, they chase him as Scatter the Weak hits max range. And Taco followed by Hollow. Frank Esports get the turret. The trade continues. But MFT have still left one in their side lane. He is completely untouched. Now, Kurt's finally backing away. Even a teleport committed by Pretender.
Interesting that they actually do commit the teleport coming in from Pretender in that instance. Just because that when on the Rise, the reason why Rise isn't necessarily used as a side lane threat is because he doesn't push turrets that fast with his autos. He doesn't also build a whole lot of AP to help supplement those turret taking abilities. So unless if you're going for some wild build, throwing in a Lich Bane or something, which I would love to see just randomly, that would just be fun. It exemplifies Machine Gun Rise to a T, but it's really going to take him a while to chew through these towers.
Yeah, it is. Fimbulwinter picked up, though, while we're speaking about items. So one is 2.5 strong. Kind of giving some of the hope for the roster of MFT. Gold has been kept at 4,000. So the lead hasn't extended here for Frank Esports in the first 20 minutes of the game. And we're kind of now just waiting for these next couple of objectives. Frank have destroyed tier 2 in the bottom, in the mid. Top side is the only side remaining. Trying to find a pick as the comp does so well. Feels like the next approach before we get towards risking it around Dragon, or at least getting some of the setup that would allow Frank to draw MFT in.
Yeah, and this next fight, I mean, it's going to be really important for when to complete his Frozen Heart by the time this next big fight does come around, because as it stands, with just the Glacial Shroud, it doesn't give him any value. He needs the attack speed slow to actually have some impact with this itemization. Before then, it's not really all too good because you do have to deal with a Syndra. You have to deal with a Gwen. So, and the fact that Eminem's more of the Triforce tanky sort of build means that he's not outputting a ton of damage. It's really whittling you down through 1,000 cuts.
Well, Frank Esports going to go for this 1v1. My doorbell's ringing Night Star, but we've got a fight to hit as Taco going to get the ditty of it. We get the ulti through as well. Ulti for ulti. Taco in the Death Realm. Kurt playing it out. Kites around, but it's Taco in the end. He gets his revenge.
Oh, dear. Kurt whiffs on one of those key ultimates. I think it was the second to last one, where he just whiffs completely, and that's so much of your damage just gone as the Gwen. In fact, you could even say that the first couple just don't matter because of how much the damage ramps up on your ultimates. It's really those later ults that you need to land, and he misses one of the last two, and that's going to cost him big time. He takes a solo death. Now all of a sudden Taco has a CS lead. He's going to be close to, okay, he is pretty close to that Nashor's Tooth. Actually has all the components, just hasn't completed it yet.
Epoch is actually getting drawn in. Yeah, we'll see if there's any follow-up here for Frank Esports. You know, again, this game is not closing out. It's still at a 4K gold lead. Nothing's changed. Yeah. MFT are making this competitive, and it ain't over, despite what we think. Is Hollow wants to jump in once again. He wants Taco. Scatter the Weak is out of range. Taco walks to the left, and outside he goes. But Frank Esports, it's simple. Right now, they need to find that pick. They need to bring them around Dragon, the third one coming up. And it seems like it's going to be theirs without contest.
They will be able to secure it without contention, which is a little bit surprising, but I also think that it's an acceptable trade for the side of MFT because, again, the Ocean Dragon itself isn't to die for, but Ocean Soul has to be where they do contest. They have to contest that next dragon in this instance. And an interesting build coming out here for Pretender, as he's gone for the Leandries, which we don't see a ton on the Syndra, and we also see an early Banshee's Veil, another item we just haven't seen a whole lot lately. So it's really just saying that Pretender wants to play very defensive. Okay, thought a pick might have come through, but he's going to be playing a role to just try and peel for himself and be as annoying as possible, because of course you also get ability haste from that mythic passive.
I want to point out, you're speaking about builds. Hollow's got Blade of the Ruined King second. Like, this is not the wit's end. This is a help to Baron start, as Frank Esports going to do exactly that. Now, one is 3 items strong, and 665 is nearby. You can see down the bottom. Oh, we're doing this again. But you know what? The revenge served ice cold. You've got Kurt with 2 items showing up before Taco gets his. Solo kill after solo kill. We continue down the rabbit hole as Frank Esports looking more seriously at the Baron now.
And at long last, Kurt able to find a solo kill of his own, and because that removes that side lane pressure, I thought they'd take it a little bit slower and allow him to push on up, try and crash that into that tier 3 tower, but now we're just going to have action.
They know the health, they've got a ward on the right side, they know the positioning as well at 3k. They're going to start this up as they're on to Rebirth. Look at that. Reset City for Whale. Hollow as well has to get out. Frank Esports,
Eminem
the team ahead. Absolutely blasted, but Eminem has already pulled the crash down out. He wants to find the fight elongated. But Frank Esports don't get an opportunity. MFT, they're more than in this game. They are a threat. And I don't think we can discount just yet.
Yeah, I think it comes down to the inexperience from the side of Frank Esports, right? How many times have we had them ahead at this point in the game? Not too often. And when you do have to deal with a bit of I feel like an off meta, at least when it comes to PCS wise composition, you're not used to dealing with something like the Mordekaiser, like the Volibear, at least in a PCS setting. So they're just trying to figure out how to play against this composition, and they saw that, hey, Mordekaiser's dead. That means we can actually play the Baron game. We don't have to worry about Mordekaiser yoinking our jungler out of a smite fight. So I think that's why they overcommitted to it rather than slow playing, allow Kurt to crash the wave into that tower and threaten the split push before then calling for the Baron play.
Or, you know, threaten away the team fighting capabilities of Kurt. But when he doesn't have that ulti, 5v4 not going to be as threatening. I think importantly enough, we know Super Mega Death Rocket is down from Whale, who went back, picked up the Lord Dominic's regarded as his 3rd item. That rocket not as big a cooldown in the late game, but still significant to mention. As both teams doing the Baron dance, but in 1 minute 20, we're going to do the Ocean Soul dance. Frank Esports, that'll be a very defining moment for them if they can pick it up, because otherwise, I think we continue talking about the scaling. Is it time to pause? I think it's time to pause. We're doing this again, aren't we? We're doing this again. Who wins it? Kurt's going to ulti first. Onto Taco, ignite down. Stops the network in his track. We keep doing this. This 1v1 gets more intense as the game goes on. At 26 minutes, the 4th time we've had a solo kill between these 2 top laners. Kurt and Taco are trying to giga chat this.
They're really just that was truly a Wild Wild West moment. You know,
yeah.
He comes out of the bush, they stare at each other in the eyes and just go, all right, 3, 2, 1, go. And then they just pressed all their buttons.
Dude, and it's a slither of HP that it's winning out by each time. Yeah. Kurt now 2 in a row. I hope people in chat are keeping a timer. Sorry, a counter, I should say, because it's a big solo kill when Taco might have TP, but Kurt pushes him out. He's going to have to reposition. Hollow coming from the wing. This could be it against MFT. Frank Esports, a defining moment. Crashdown comes through from Eminem. Watch the Zeri as the Wombo comes through. 665 in the backside goes down. A triple kill as well. Eminem cleaning up. It's a penta denied. But Eminem on this Zeri showing why it needs to be banned away. Frank Esports, they've done it. One may get the kills, but it's still Eminem with the carry.
Now, what can they take off of this? That's going to be the question, because they're not going to be able to end the game straight up here. It is, of course, a Zeri that doesn't necessarily have a ton of damage to shred through towers. So it is just going to be one tower and the Ocean Soul. So at the very least, they get the next big combat objective for themselves, which is going to be that healing. And that's going to make a huge difference. We talked about those 1v1s between Kurt and Taco. I think they just got way more lopsided.
Dude, like Zeri in team fights. Oh, it's just so good. It's so good. And one prop to him when the Rise was in a pretty decent position through this mid-game. Are doing quite a lot, but Eminem not targeted, not touched. No one cares about him. The 6-0 Zeri, now 4 items strong. Ocean Soul picked up at the end of live there, and 6,000 gold. Now the lead for Frank Esports. And I was saying this before, Nightstar, with Frank now having the Ocean Soul, a lot changes once again, and we're in a game where the Zeri has all the tools to transition this team to the rest of what we'll call the late game.
Not only that, this Gwen has all the tools.
Yeah.
Now has a third item, has the Banshee's Veil. I do question the Banshee's Veil in this case. I think, something like a Spirit Visage would have been nuts, because A, you have Ocean healing, but B, you just have so much healing from your kit in general that it would be better if you're looking for an A or an MR item to just augment your healing on top of it. But that's not where we're going to get, and we are seeing the 4-1 essentially set up here.
Oh, look, Taco action in 1v1 down the bottom lane again. That was easier for Kurt. Banshee fell maybe working out as Taco can't do a thing in this game. In a 5 versus 4, Kurt now with the TP if he wants to join in, but he's going to end the game. MFT in a bad fight and in a bad state as they're on their last legs. Frank Esports buying the time with low health bars, and once again, Eminem is crashing down. Flashes over, looking for Whale, chasing him down. The final kill makes triple, and Frank Esports will equalize with MFT, both in this game and in the standings, make the PCS more competitive in such a competitive way.
Man, Frank Esports,